நின்னருளை அன்றி அருளை அன்றி என் நெஞ்சில் பிரிதொன்றை மண்ணு பொருளாக மதிக்கிலேன். நின்னருளை அன்றி என் நெஞ்சில் பிரிதொன்றை மண்ணு பொருளாக மதிக்கிலேன். துன்னலரும் சிற்பரமா நின்ற சிவஸ்வரூபத்து துன்னலரும் சிற்பரமா நின்ற சிவஸ்வரூபத்து என் நெஞ்சு தற்பரமா நிற்கருள் நின்னருளையன்றி என் நெஞ்சில் பிரிதொன்றை மண்ணு பொருளாக மதிக்கிலேன். துன்னலரும் சிற்பரமா நின்ற சிவஸ்வரூபத்து என் நெஞ்சு தற்பரமா நிற்க அருள். தற்பரமா நிற்க அருள்.
Other than your grace, in my mind I cannot conceive of aught else that exists as the one enduring reality. Grant that my heart may as the absolute its true state find in your Siva nature, unapproachable, transcending mind.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. So today's neṟis or disciplines all deal with communication. How do we communicate with others? So we'll start with first neṟi for today, which is neṟi or discipline 44. I think Anant is not here today. So Murthy, you want to go ahead and read it?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
உண்மையாளர் எழுத்து பேச்சு இரண்டிலும் ஒப்ப மிக மிதமாய் இருக்க கடவன். இன்றே அறிந்தோ அறியாமலோ உண்மை நின்று தவறுதல் நிச்சயம் நிகழும். அதிக பேச்சால் அனர்த்தம் விளையும். Shall I read once more?
Please.
உண்மையாளர் எழுத்து பேச்சிரண்டிலும் ஒப்ப மிக மிதமாய் இருக்க கடவர். இன்றே அறிந்தோ அறியாமலோ உண்மையினின்று தவறுதல் நிச்சயம் நிகழும். அதிக பேச்சால் அனர்த்தம் விளையும்.
Thank you. Robert?
integrity should exercise great moderation both in what they write and in what they say. Otherwise, it is certain that, knowingly or unknowingly, they will deviate from the truth. Excessive speech will give rise to nonsense.
Right. So with regards to this neṟis, we have a quote from Sage Thiruvalluvar, and this is a well-known work in Tamil Nadu. It's called Tirukkural, verse 193. நயனிலன் என்பது சொல்லும் பயனில பாரித்துரைக்கும் முறை. Robert?
Indulgence in lengthy and pointless discourse merely proclaims the speaker's lack of worth.
You want to give any additional comments on this?
No, we'll just carry on and we'll have the discussion later, I think.
Oh, okay. So the next neṟis deals with the same theme here. Of course, all the neṟis deal with the same theme. So let's go ahead. Murthy, you want to read 45, please?
சுருங்கச் சொல்லி விளங்க வைத்தலே அறிவுடைமைக்கு அழகு. அதிக பேச்சால் அறியாமையே வெளிப்படும். பல் சொல்ல காமுறுவர் மன்ற மாசற்ற சில சொல்லல் தேற்றாதவர். குறள். He is quoting there a Tirukkural like you did earlier.
Yeah.
Let me read this again once more if you don't mind.
Please.
சுருங்கச் சொல்லி விளங்க வைத்தலே அறிவுடைமைக்கு அழகு. அதிக பேச்சால் அறியாமையே வெளிப்படும். Then the quote comes. பல் சொல்ல காமுறுவர் மன்றம் மாசற்ற சில சொல்லல் தேற்றாதவர். That is the word.
Right. We will read the translation soon. Robert, please go ahead.
To express one's thoughts clearly using just a few words is the ornament of wisdom. Excess verbiage will only highlight one's ignorance. And the chorale which illustrates this.
Yeah. பல சொல்ல காமுறுவர் மன்றமாசற்ற சில சொல்லல் தேற்றாதவர். Go ahead.
Many words they'll delight to use who have not learned to make their point with just a carefully chosen few.
Yeah. So, any comments from the group? I think the message is clear here. And Muruganar stated it a couple of times.
Mark, can you go to the previous slide?
Yeah. To express one's thoughts clearly using just a few words is the ornament of wisdom. Excess verbiage will only highlight one's ignorance. So, anyone wants to share their thoughts on this, personal experiences?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Stephen is here. Go ahead, Stephen. Can you sit here?
Okay. It reminds me of a quote, and the origin of the quote is debatable as whether Lincoln said it or Mark Twain said it or whomever it is. And the quote goes it's a paraphrase, what I'm doing. If I had more time, I would have written less.
Yeah.
And that one struck me, and that's where I am with this. If one can get to simplicity of who one is being, then the few words would suffice. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so that's something that I've been practicing when I'm awake to it.
Yeah.
Not only into my speaking, but also other people's listening.
Yeah. And I remember reading a book by Larry King, the famous talk show host from CNN. And there he said, you're sharing the secrets of why he's such a best talker. in the world. He basically says, because he talks less and lets the other people talk more. Listening, the other component, right? Okay, so with that, thanks, Stephen. With that, let's go on to the next neṟi, which is a combination of neṟis 52 and 61. What do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. பேச்சை பெருக்குவோர் அறிவை சுருக்குவோர் உத்தண்டமான ஊதாரி பேச்சு உளத்து வெளிற்றை ஒளியாது உணர்த்தும். உத்தண்டமான ஊதாரி பேச்சு உளத்து வெளிற்றை ஒளியாது உணர்த்தும். So பேச்சை பெருக்குவோர் அறிவை சுருக்குவோர். That is one, seems to be one neṟi, which is 52.
Right.
And 61 is உத்தண்டமான ஊதாரி பேச்சு உளத்து வெளிற்றை ஒளியாது உணர்த்தும்.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that வெளிற்றை, I'm not 100% sure what that means. உளத்து வெளிற்றை is how it is written.
Right. So let's see how Robert's translating this. Robert, please go ahead.
Those who are expansive in speech will shrink in knowledge. Impetuous and an extravagant speech will not mastermind ignorance, but only advertise it. Velitrai means to expose or to put in the open.
So while Robert is looking at it, I'll just read this one more time. Those who are expansive in speech will shrink in knowledge. An impetuous and extravagant speech will not mask the mind's ignorance, but only advertise it. I think all of these neṟis should really get the message to us.
Yes, but we're always talking without thinking, aren't we? So the main thing is that if we think before we speak, well, we'll say a lot less.
Right.
I'll read this out now. There is a famous saying attributed to the legendary Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu: "Those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know." This saying is valid at all levels, from the highest spiritual to the mundane practical. Insomuch as we remain centered in our sense of being, which is pure and free of the ego, we will tend to say only what is necessary and appropriate to the situation. However, if we allow ourselves to be swept up in ego, our Vishaya vasanas, we are liable to talk all manner of nonsense. By Vishaya vasanas, we mean our desires, our fears, and our unacknowledged preconceived ideas that we all, well, the ego has, we don't have, but the ego has them. So if we reflect inward before we speak, we will tend to be part of the situation, therefore respond to the whole situation we're in. We'll be in the flow of that moment, and we'll say the right thing, because there's no ego talking. There's just being talking. That makes any sense.
Yeah. Anyone has any questions on this, on all the neṟis we've done read so far?
It's not a question, but more just a comment, just to say,
Sure.
First of all, how I think, one of the greatest things I think that, I think it maybe attracted a lot of us to Bhagavan is just the simplicity, and just that there is absolutely like zero fat, unnecessary kind of trimmings in any of his teaching or, writings, and everything is just so direct and clear. I think this is one of the greatest appeal to him. There's not like a lot of flowery decorational language or anything like that. It's all, as they say, all filler, right? And I mean, I think we say this and kind of, it strikes me that his most, his teachings and his writings are the things that reach us now. But, he was most known for teaching in silence without any words at all. So kind of, if you can do that, I mean,
Exactly.
Form of, because words can only, the limits the limits of language or the limits of the world, and kind of, for the kind of thing he was trying to teach. It still strikes me as so amazing when I go, anytime I read his works, just how just succinct and to the point. And, many other great spiritual teachers, read their books, and of course it's wonderful and everything, but there is just something so, like Robert said, the more you talk about something, the less it seems you know about it. When you just say just what needs to be said, I mean, it doesn't get, I think, as far as teachings go, just it doesn't get any more clear or just direct than that. That's all that's there is all that you need.
Right.
There's, I remember something by Nisargadatta Maharaj, and they were trying to get him to say, when you say something, what are you thinking? He said, well, I just hear myself speaking. There is no thought.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So thank you. With that, let's go to the next set of two neṟis, which is neṟis 69 and 66. Murthy, please go ahead.
69, Vidandam Vilakku.
How do you read that?
Yeah, it's a short
Im is not very visible or clear, but I'm guessing there. Vidandavadam is some colloquial phrase which we are used to. Vidandavadam means useless argument. That is what Vidandavadam.
Just disputation I've got. Vilaka, obviously, to get rid of it.
Right. So, go ahead.
Vidandam probably implies Vidandavadam. So,
right.
Useless talking.
Yeah.
66. Tam anubhavam konde tam urugal arinyarku அழகு இதே ஆயினும் ஒரு சிலர்க்கு உணவாவது வேறு சிலர்க்கு விஷமாக கொண்டலால் மற்றவர் பட்சத்தை மறுத்து தம் பட்சத்தையே வற்புறுத்தல் புத்திமான்களுக்கு பொருந்துவதன்றாம். Again, these are multiple statements, I think. 66, first part, I think, has tam anubhavam konde tam urugal arinyarku. So tam anubhavam konde tam urugal is full stop. So that is what is stated. Tam anubhavam konde tam urugal. Then he says arinyarku அழகு இதே ஆயினும் ஒரு சிலர்க்கு உணவாவது வேறு சிலர்க்கு விஷமாக கொண்டலால் can be read as கொண்டலால் மற்றவர் பட்சத்தை மறுத்து தம் பட்சத்தையே வற்புறுத்தல் புத்திமான்களுக்கு பொருந்துவது அன்றாம்.
Yeah, thank you. Robert?
Avoid disputation. It is a virtue in the learned to base their actions on their own experience. However, realizing that one man's sweetmeat is another man's poison, the wise will not find it appropriate to insist on their own point of view whilst rejecting that of others. And this is one of the main ways we get into trouble with our talking, isn't it? Somehow we feel that we have to persuade other people we're right. And that's because we're not sure that we are right.
Yeah.
Once we show our own truth, then we very rarely have any need. We can say something if it's required, but we don't have a need to. We only really have a need to when we're not sure, and we're trying to boost our ego by making sure that we're right and they're wrong, sort of thing.
Right, exactly.
Anybody agree with that?
Yeah. So there is a quote which Robert pointed out from Conscious Immortality by Paul Brunton. He was one of the earliest devotees of Bhagavan and also helped popularize Bhagavan's teachings in the West with his book, A Search in Secret India. Robert, you want to go ahead and read Brunton's
I just read Arya Samaj was a society started to promote really Indian independence. It wasn't like sort of Hindu-centric, really. It was just a movement. And that was called the Arya Samaj, founded in, I don't know, around the 20s or 30s. I watched a visitor who was a famous public speaker for the Arya Samaj, a vigorous debater and fighter, known for his intolerance and disputatiousness, enter the hall and begin to question the Maharishi. Scarcely waiting for an answer, he began to provide the answers himself. He laid down the law in a loud voice.
Okay.
For instance, he said, I want to know the way to find the truth. A minute later, he firmly said, the service of humanity is the best way to find the truth, answering his own question. The Maharishi replied, you say so. The man began to argue with two others present in an obnoxious manner, and thereafter the Maharishi kept quiet and did not say a single word until the man left. After that, Maharshi said to us, silence is the greatest weapon wherewith to answer such persons. Well, there we have it from the horse's mouth.
Right.
Somebody's talking rubbish, then you don't say anything.
Right. So at this point, I will open up for any questions or comments from the group.
Kumar, good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of all this discussion reminds me of the discussion we had recently on minimalism.
Yeah.
It appears that minimalism can also be applied to our speech.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, choosing, yeah, this is interesting. And I just wanted to make a comment. And also I found on Netflix a documentary on minimalism. If anybody wants to take a look at that, you know. All right. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Good. Well, thank you. Any other comments?
I love that this shows a little bit of Bhagavan's fighting warrior side. You know, he talks about a weapon, greatest weapon. I know he was kidding, but it's nice to see that.
Right. Right.
And this is all about conversations involving arguments and point of views, correct? Not like small talk, like you talk to family and friends, or is it all conversations?
I think it's all conversations.
Oh, yes.
It encompasses all conversations, and then the frugal we are with the words, the better.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, this feels incredibly relevant to our society.
So,
as it is.
Shanti, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Shanti says here, not just in verbal words, but also in thoughts. You want to be frugal. Go ahead, Yazan.
I think just, I'm guessing probably most of us in this group are not, big on social media or anything like that. But I think all this that we're speaking about, kind of, looking at the way our world is transferred. This is most of what the internet is. I think just people getting online and this is my point of view and I'm arguing with you and just, all kinds of things are said and people are just dragged into so much just nonsense. And I mean, it's not even like real, but it's just for what point to prove that I'm right. I don't even know this person. I don't know what it is, but I have a point and I'm here to make it. And it's just incredible, that this is the highest approach, you don't get involved in that. You don't get entangled because where's that ultimately going to lead you? I think the saying, so just seeing how Bhagavan, dealt with the situation and just kind of left it in silence because it's, what are you going to tell a person like that? They're just there to kind of, say, this is my point and I'm right. And I just really, the point is just to want to, I don't know, just it's ego driven, right? Because I need to satisfy that I made this point and I'm correct, and kind of it's almost like verbal judo, like you just redirect it, just you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, and it's a very like Shohan said, this is just a great, I think, example of just his how he lived his life and how he just really put his teachings into practice.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is going to be very helpful day to day.
Yeah, this will be very helpful. Yeah. I mean, and we need to implement this. That's the message. we need to, it's not just some theoretical discussion. We just need to implement this right away. I mean, and everyone, no matter where you are, I think we can always perfect this art, and get better at it.
Cool. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, Murthy, go ahead.
See, personally, I learned a lesson very recently. I was extremely moved and impressed by an editorial in the 1981 April edition of Mountain Path. It is an editorial, and the managing editor at that time was V. Ganesh, who was a great grand nephew of Bhagavan. It's a very hard-hitting article, editorial article, which basically says the individual self has to be denied at every opportune moment, including while practicing Bhagavan's teaching of self-inquiry and self-surrender. The individual self does not exist at any point of time, and we should constantly remind ourselves that our true nature is not the individual self or the ego self. That's the sum and bottom of the article. Okay? So I was so impressed with the article.
Right.
As a devotee, I thought it is a good thing to share that with others.
Right.
So today I was talking about it with someone I know very closely who have been studying Bhagavan's teachings for several years. And they came up with an idea or thought that even this particular article is useless words, because in that article, V. Ganeshan would say, even Bhagavan's words are something we have to give up at some point of time, because Bhagavan's words are just signposts and not the truth by themselves. They are indicating the truth. If we keep on holding to Bhagavan's words, it is like chaining ourselves with a gold chain as opposed to an iron chain. That's the analogy he uses. Right? So while we were reading this person was telling me, Murthy, that way even these words are useless. So, and then they were going on to say that anything can be identified as concluded as erroneous if you are very smart using any argument. So this article is trying to say that the onus is on us, and we are wrong, we should be doing this, we should be. Even these words are just words. Then I realized that it's kind of pointless to take what you feel as very good and all Bhagavan, devotees should be knowing, to them, thinking that it will do good to them. First, look at yourself. So that's the teaching. I realized immediately that I should kind of tame myself from my ego, which is wanting to share what I think is the best interpretation of Bhagavan's teaching, right? So that's what I felt, that the previous quote, previous neṟis, in which he said, what you're saying may be the real truth, but sharing it with everyone and insisting on that being the real correct conclusion or teaching may not be appropriate in all cases. That's what I think the neṟis said. Right? I'm paraphrasing here because it's 2-3 slides before. And that struck me very, very hard, because that's exactly my experience very recently. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Murthy. So I'll conclude with the comment from Stephen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ruminating on what Shanti said earlier about the efficiency of even in our communication, even starting with our thought. Yeah, and a lot of the context that I'm listening to through this portion of it tends to focus in the arena of conflict of conversation or arguments or something like that. And I'm listening to what Shanti said about thought. Whether it's argument or not, it goes to self-expression. There's something in our self-expression that one would want to communicate. And then I saw Yanni's face, Yazan's face, and connected to music and the art of even in self-expression that has nothing to do with words, and music, and the self-expression in song. So where's the efficiency in how much we say in a song that puts us out in self-expression, especially one with love? So there is no right or wrong for me in that. It's what do I get to say and be efficient to communicate?
Right.
Which I had said earlier, my litmus test that I'm playing with in this arena of self-expression and in this arena of understanding the Bhagavan and what he has to say is, so what's new being said or for me to hear that goes past the first two verses? You know, why do we need, you know, 698 more verses when the first two were sufficient?
Right.
And so I keep going through that whole
Yes.
process of understanding. So thank
Exactly.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And that is why Bhagavan was very reluctant even in composing his works. People have to push him to get to have him write his works. With that, we will conclude today's session.
So we can say.